Hello and welcome to the From Stands to Sidelines podcast, a podcast by coaches for coaches. Today, I'd like to welcome you to Extra Time, our series of shorter pods where we explore key football news, transfers, fixtures and tournaments. On this series, we will try to frame all the current football stories through the coaching lens. Thank you for joining us. We really do hope you enjoy it. Welcome to today's Extra Time, and today we are doing a Euro 2024 review. We're going to have a little look at some of the shock results throughout the tournament and some of the shock placements, as well as the teams we think over and underperformed. Take it away, gents. First of all, what do we think of Group A? Keane, lead us off.
Pretty much finished exactly how you probably would have predicted it. There were two very interesting games actually, which, sat there both with both my screens on watching them. Was the last group game. Germany, Switzerland finishing 1-1. I think we definitely saw the best of Switzerland, and that sort of gave us a little inkling of what they were going to offer as we went into the group stages. As obviously we later found out that it was going to be a bit of a difficult task. I think also as well with Scotland finishing in fourth was probably not really how they probably deserved to go out. I think, obviously getting a draw against Switzerland, I think they played well in that game considering probably, how well Switzerland played throughout the tournament. The last game, if they'd end up getting a winner against Hungary before Hungary went and scored that late goal, I think it could have ended very differently for Scotland. But a very interesting group, but you probably would have predicted it like that.
Can I ask a question? What do you call a Scotsman in the knockout stages?
Lost.
A referee. Carry on. Group B, Matt, what do you think?
I've got it here. Spain, top in the group. They actually didn't concede a goal, which I've just found out. 5 goals, 0 conceded. But I think Croatia were the team in there that you expect to do a little bit better, I think. I think they didn't really shine this tournament. They got a couple draws, but again, you expect them to definitely be a good third place team. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple group in my eyes. Like Group A, really expected it to finish the same way it did, to be fair. Spain topping it, Italy in second, and I think same as Group A.
How do you feel about Italy as obviously the current holders, or they were the current holders of the European Championship? How do you think they performed? They only got 4 points from their 3 games. What do you reckon about that?
You see 4 points though, but the group that had Spain went on to win it, obviously. And then you've still got Croatia, who I just said didn't have a great tournament, but still no pushovers. They're a team people probably put second and Italy third in most predictions to try and be that outsider. But I mean, 4 points.
The group of death as well.
Yeah, it's not it was out of them and Croatia really to be that second place, and 4 points.
And they did draw 1-1. They did draw 1-0 in that game, so they were quite a well-matched pair.
Yeah.
Well, that moves us on to Group C, which was England's group. Carl, take it away.
Cool. So obviously in England's group we had Denmark, Slovenia, and Serbia. Obviously, topped the group with 5 points, with 1 win and 2 draws. I think England didn't anticipate how close this group was going to be, and I don't think a lot of people did, because you look at it and everyone's got above 2 points. And even you look at Serbia, that even though we beat them within the first game, they were a good side. And to be fair, they gave a very good account for themselves, considering it was their first European Championships as well. Also, Denmark looked to play well, even after everything that happened last European Championship with Christian Eriksen. It was quite a touching moment to be able to actually see him score a goal off the last Championships. And to be fair, I think it kind of topped off, or at least set the tone for Denmark's, the way they played. And even when we played them, they were a good side. And I think what was interesting about this group is there seemed to be a trend that everyone was defending in a 5-4-1 formation, and there was a lot of low blocks and mid blocks happening. I don't think there was much pressing high, which does mean that unfortunately there were some games that weren't as interesting. But on the whole, with England going through, leading the group, as expected, I thought we were going to do it more comfortably. But hey, we got through anyways. Denmark getting through, I think, was a pretty much nailed on. And even Slovenia getting through. Because to be fair, they did quite well and gave a very good account of themselves. All those teams were quite defensive, but they defended well. So yeah, very, very close group.
Okay, that moves us on to Group D. Luke, would you like to take a look?
Yeah, I think Group D was definitely one of the shock groups. I think the only other one you could really say was Group E, where they all ended on the equal points that we'll move on to in a minute. But to have, when you first look at it, France, Netherlands, Poland, Austria is probably the order you would put it in. But for Austria to top that group, I think they really showed a great account of themselves. They played some brilliant football, but I wouldn't necessarily say it was the best football to win the group. I think that France probably just didn't hit any kind of level that anyone would expect from them. To score more own goals than your actual goals is like something.
Is it
I
good
know
Scored two, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly, but it just seems like to have the attacking players that they do, and one of supposedly now the world's best player in Mbappe, and to not really get goals just seems mad to me, especially as everyone was having a go at us as England for not scoring so many. I think France kind of ducked under it a little bit, but they got through. They did what they had to. I think Netherlands were. I think Netherlands were probably the best in that group, arguably. Then they showed it to get through all the way to the semi-finals. But yeah, I think it was a bit of a shock of a group. Credit to Austria. They did what you had to in group football.
Second highest scoring team in the group stage, by the way. Which is an interesting one.
Exactly. It's impressive by them.
And in a strong group.
Yeah. But I still think that it was I think they capitalised quite a lot on a struggling France, and Netherlands as well. So, but top of group, it's what you got to do, and they did it. So, and like you say, top. What was it? Highest scoring in the groups?
Second highest, behind Germany.
Exactly. Like,
But they did play Scotland.
Luke, one thing you mentioned there was Mbappe, and we saw he took a nasty injury in the group stage. How much do you think that had an impact on France's group stage?
I don't know, because I think they've got you've got Giroud in that squad, and I think he is. I know he's no Mbappe. He's not got the pace. He's not got anything like that. He's a goal scorer. He's a talisman. He can finish, and they got the likes of them. I watched. I forgot what game it was, but Dembele come on and made such a difference on that wide area, and you've got the people that can serve those kinds of players, like finishers. Then I don't see where there should be a problem. I don't think it was a major loss, because it was sounds a bit ridiculous, but it was only a broken nose. It's not like he's done anything to his arms or his legs. So yeah, I don't think it was a huge impact. It shouldn't have been, really.
I think it just seemed to sort of stagger his tournament, if you know what I mean. Like, he just couldn't really,
Get back in.
The group stages are where players gather their momentum. We've seen it with Kane in the World Cup in the past. He scores a couple of goals, and all of a sudden he's got his towel up, and in other games he scores big goals, scores in big moments, and that's very much a player I think, or very much the case that I think could have happened had Mbappe stayed fit. Maybe he would have got a goal in the second game against the Netherlands, and then maybe have even gone on to be the top scorer. But I think they seem to lack that cutting edge and that little bit of sharpness in the attack. I think that was where it went wrong for me.
Yeah, I was about to say, boys, it took until the semi-finals for France to score a goal from open play. Before that, it was penalties and own goals. What goes wrong there? You have, like we've said, you have arguably the best striker in the world, and to score one open play goal to come in the semi-finals, but countering that, they conceded one goal until the semi-finals.
Go on then, James. Do you want to take us through Group E?
Yeah, I'll go through Group E now. So I think another one of our huge shocks was Romania topping that group. I mean, you certainly wouldn't have predicted that. I don't think. I personally didn't. With a group with Belgium, Slovakia, and Ukraine. I think it was really, really interesting to see that all teams finished on 4 points here. So it was a very, very even group. But Romania somehow did the business and scored plenty more goals than the rest. And I think that was huge. And Belgium to finish second is something you wouldn't necessarily associate with them in that sort of group. You're probably expecting Belgium to go through top, especially with their world ranking and their history of success, because they have been successful in major tournaments. But I think when we look at Belgium, they're a team that are certainly in transition. At least that's the way I feel. Is they've moved from an aging squad and a generation of players that were absolutely fantastic. Your Eden Hazards, players like that sort. And now they're moving towards a younger squad because those players, aren't playing anymore, or they're retired, or they're maybe not necessarily playing their international football level anymore. But I think they're in transition. I think it will be another good couple of years. I think it'll be 4 to 6 years before we see Belgium hit the heights again. I think Ukraine were unfortunate to finish bottom of the group. I think they play some good football, but I think maybe they underperformed slightly given some of the talent they have. Slovakia, I think they did quite well to finish in third place. I think it's a real hard one to call this group because, like I say, everybody finished on 4 points. I think you just got to give a big round of applause to Romania because they've topped a group that really they probably shouldn't be. And I think they are an underrated power in European football. They've got some notable players that are on their way up, and I think they could be one to watch for the next, once again, 4 to 6 years. I do like the chances of Romania. That moves us on to Group F. I will hand it back over to you, Keane. Go for it.
Yeah, Group F. Very interesting group indeed. We see the introduction of Georgia for the first time. Looked like after the first game against Turkey that it was they were going to struggle. Losing 3-1 in that game. It wasn't the most easiest of games for Turkey. Who seemed to put together a relatively good group stage performance over the 3 games. But yeah, no, I think for Georgia, I think they've done incredibly well to get through. Obviously the notable names are Mikotadze up front, the top scorer, joint top scorer in the tournament, by the way, which is very interesting considering Georgia were coming into their first tournament and without disrespecting them, a lot of players that we've never really seen before. But it's great to see some of these teams managing to get their way into the knockout stages, and even some of these players now that are finding themselves being linked with bigger moves, which is interesting. The likes of West Ham are now after him, which would be really interesting to see how we would fare in the Premier League. The underperformers for me, definitely the Czech Republic. I would have 100% had them going through in second and comfortably as well. I would have had them on at least 6 or 7 points. I could have seen them nicking maybe a point off of Portugal in a game as well. I would have had them and Portugal going through on 7 points each, to be honest with you. But there was always going to be a shock in this group. Fairy tale stuff, Georgia going through, and Czech Republic going out. Very unfortunate, and massive underperformance considering the squad that they've got. Routine for Portugal though, routine for them. Even though they were on the end of a huge shock in that last group game against Georgia. But yeah, we see some really interesting stuff in that group, and some great stuff from Turkey as well, who went on to the quarterfinals in the end, falling short against the Netherlands. But I was really impressed with some of the football and some of the stuff on display from those teams in Group F.
I think it's interesting we talk about Turkey, because if I think back to the 2020 Euros, which obviously was in 2021, I seem to recall, the vast majority of the population was saying that Turkey was everyone's dark horse. Everyone believed in Turkey, and they underperformed then. They really did. And this time, I think they went a little more undetected. I don't think as many people fancied their chances, but this time they did the business, really.
Do you know what I really like for Turkey is that they've adapted certain roles of certain players. You look at the likes of Arda Güler, who seems to play centrally when he does come onto the pitch for Real Madrid. Sort of took up a wider role for Turkey and played a huge part. And someone like Çalhanoğlu, who's just won the Serie A with Inter Milan, he's known for playing higher up the pitch, being a nice creative player. But he didn't seem to take up that role. He seemed to be playing a little bit deeper, picking up the ball from deep, either driving it into the final third or picking a pass. And I think that really, really did work well for Turkey, because it's something that we hadn't seen before from that type of player, and something that they just didn't seem to rely on these players. Everyone sort of carried their weight, which was really interesting to see.
100%. So I'll move us on now to the third place teams. Just quickly, briefly touch upon the ranking of them. So Netherlands and Georgia were almost joint first. Slovakia and Slovenia, Hungary and Croatia. So Croatia to finish bottom of all the third place teams is something I think is crazy. For a group like them with an undoubted talent, they scored 3 goals in the group stage and conceded 6. I think that's a huge disappointment for them, and one I think they'll look back on not with very fond memories. But yeah, so Netherlands, Georgia, Slovakia and Slovenia were the 4 highest ranked third place teams making it through. I think, we've touched on it before. The Netherlands, we expect that from them to get through. Georgia was an absolute fairy tale, and Slovakia and Slovenia, who play very well in tournaments because they are determined and they very pragmatic teams. So let's move on now to the knockout stage of the tournament. And we won't touch on every game, but we'll have a little look about any shock results. So anybody got any ideas of any shock results?
I really liked Slovenia's performance against Portugal.
I was about to say that one, yeah.
Really enjoyed that. It's probably my favourite game of the group stage, of the knockout stage, to be completely honest with you. I think they were resolute. They had a game plan. They managed to nullify the threat of certain individuals. But for me, massively disappointing from Portugal, I think, throughout the tournament, especially in the knockout stages. They lost to Georgia in the group stage, and they seem to carry that poor form into the knockout stage, where they struggled against Slovenia, albeit Slovenia defended very well. They also had a couple of chances of their own where you think they might just nick it. But I think they were very unfortunate to go out on penalties, and Portugal were very, very fortunate to be able to get through in the end as they did.
I think for me, definitely the Switzerland-Italy game in the knockouts was a big shock. Italy being the holders of the trophy, you expected them to put up a bit of a fight to try and retain that trophy. But to be honest, fair play to Switzerland. I think in that game they were absolutely magnificent at just stopping Italy, even getting numbers into the Swiss half. Just every single time Italy tried, they just could not find a way. And I think it is a credit to Switzerland, but it was definitely a shock game for me. I expected Italy to at least make the semi-finals. But yeah, definitely.
I think for me, one of the games, I wouldn't necessarily call it a shock when you look at the names of the teams, but in terms of comparing their group stage position and the way they played there, you look at Romania against Netherlands. Now, Romania finished top of Group E and Netherlands were third in Group D, yet Netherlands seemed to finally click into gear and won 3-0 and had a bit of they ran away with it, really. And I think that's one of the interesting moments of the tournament for me is Netherlands having a sudden shift of, okay, now we've got lucky to be here, but now we've got to really turn it on. And I think they did that superbly well in that game. And it was a shame for Romania, who obviously vastly overperformed in the group stage, as most people would expect. But yeah, that was an interesting game for me, the 3-0 run over.
To be fair, the only game that really shocked me was the Austria-Turkey one. Austria have been so well throughout the tournament through the group stage, and it's almost like they kind of ran out of steam towards the end. Like, I didn't expect Turkey to go and beat them 2-1, especially considering that like everyone was like, "Oh, Ragnick's football is playing. They're playing brilliant football." And to be fair, it was good. It was good to watch, and it was good to see them actually playing well. But obviously, they then got overturned by Turkey, which was a bit of what I would class as a shock result, because I didn't think Turkey was going to get that far in this tournament in the first place.
Matt, can I ask you a question now? So in terms of the France-Belgium game, France had 20 shots and 2 on target. Belgium had 6 shots and also 2 on target. So, 18 shots off goal for France there. Do you think that was maybe their key missing aspect in the French game, was just that clinical finish?
Yeah, I mean, you're comparing it to France, but I'd compare it to a lot of teams. We saw on the group stage, France only scoring 2, England only scoring 2. It just seemed like a very low scoring tournament to me. And you see Portugal, France in the next one, we'll get to in a minute. Probably you've got Ronaldo on that pitch. You've got, all these superstars, and it ends 0-0. So I mean, you're pointing out 20 shots and 2 on target, which is
not good
for
enough.
any team. You could play Sunday League. It's still not good enough. But then you're talking about the stars France have. To have 2 shots on target out of 20 shots.
It's an interesting thought for maybe our listeners particularly. Yeah. How is that? Because, you mentioned it's a low-scoring tournament. Is there a reason behind that, perhaps? But let's move on now to the quarterfinals, which saw Spain beat Germany 2-1, Portugal against France. France won on penalties. Netherlands beat Turkey 2-1, and England beat Switzerland 2-1. Keane, kick us off with Spain-Germany.
Wow. A game where really you're looking at the 2 best performing teams in the tournament. A team that, in Spain, I don't think anyone predicted them to be as good as they were. They came out all guns blazing from the first kick of the tournament, really, from the first kick of the group stage. And again, they just carried on. They carried on performing. They could have easily got caught up in a moment, being in a quarter-final against a host nation. But I think they were well prepared for this game in comparison to Germany. They had the Netherlands in their group and a very good, well-performing Austria side. So I think they come into this a little bit. I mean, they didn't, did they? Sorry, they had Italy and Croatia in their group. So I think they come into it very well organised, well prepared. Whereas I think Germany, maybe they might have came in a little bit more sort of complacent compared to Spain. They had the likes of Switzerland, who, yes, they had a good tournament, but do they offer an attacking threat like Spain do? I don't think so. Hungary and Scotland too as well, which realistically then they're not going to put up a challenge against a strong German team like that. So, yeah, I mean, again, Spain, you're talking about complacency. Spain swept Georgia to the side when easily they could have got caught up in the moment too. and maybe have been shocked by Georgia like their near neighbours did Portugal in the last group game. But yeah, no, for me, Spain were excellent, and so were Germany. So, it could have easily swung either way, but Spain probably deservingly just about making it through.
Yeah, and I think credit to Germany there as a fantastic host nation for a fantastic tournament. Matt, I'll move on to Portugal versus France. To you, go for it.
Yeah, I've just been looking at it. 35 shots overall, and it's ended 0-0. And looking at the lineups, you've had Ronaldo on the pitch for 120 minutes, Mbappe for 106, Bernardo Silva for the whole game, Rafael Leao for 106. So these aren't players that you just go, yeah, they're average. These are the best of the best. These are the elites. To have 35 shots between you and 9 on target overall. Going back to the point earlier, I don't know. You have all these superstars and 35 shots between you, and it's ended 0-0. Then there needs to be something that's gone wrong behind the scenes, or something that's gone wrong. Because before, we've seen at the World Cup and the other Euros, you see Mbappe, he'll scored 6 out of 6 chances. I know he had an injury, but even like Ronaldo, you've seen this tournament, he's had a poor tournament, he's getting on a bit, but like Bernardo Silva as well, you see, like, for Man City, he's drifting inside, he'll score a couple goals, and you have them all on the same pitch. You're expecting goals. You're expecting the floor to light up and end 5-5 or something. But I think one credit to the keepers as well this tournament. I think Diogo Costa, especially in the shootouts. I just think defensively this tournament, a lot of teams were better than they were attacking.
Diogo
Definitely
Costa, the only goalkeepers saved 3 penalties in a shootout I've seen here.
There you go. And it was 3 out of
Really?
3, wasn't it? He saved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the first 3, which is incredible. And yeah, huge plaudits to him. And I think, yeah, it's definitely something we can look at, is the lack of goals scored in this tournament. Maybe something we can discuss a bit further in a future pod. Netherlands, Turkey. Luke, I will move on to you for that one.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, Turkey did well to get that goal early on. I thought they were playing like a team that was just driven to try and win this game. I think we've mentioned it before, but like the teams that, or I've mentioned to other people before, but the teams that are lower ranked as such seem to just have this really big drive and just risk it all. We're going to go and attack you. We're going to take our chances, and we'll hopefully score one, and we'll get away with it. But I think in the end, it kind of went the way you would expect, in the sense that Netherlands were hitting them quite hard towards the end of the game, and then to get their 2 goals was kind of what you'd expect, especially in such quick succession. It shows you what they were doing. They were trying to fight back, but I do think Turkey after that really came out the blocks again, and did, to be honest, I think Turkey did really, really well in that game. But more shots than Netherlands, but equal amounts on target, which potentially shows you the quality difference. Then less touches in the box, so more of their shots were from outside the box. And yeah, I think that Turkey were maybe a bit unlucky in terms of not being able to go through, but definitely a result that was probably expected and probably eventually deserved by Netherlands there.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. You mentioned a lot of their shots were outside the box, Turkey, but actually they had a higher XG, higher expected goals than the Netherlands in that game. But yeah, let's move on now to everybody's favourite, England against Switzerland. Carl, take it away.
I was about to say everyone's favourite Carl.
What thinking us? No, to be fair, if I'm all but honest, I think that was probably one of the best pound for pound games in this entire tournament. I think Switzerland were very got it tactically spot on with the way they played, but also it was really good to see England actually play in a different sort of way. So because obviously there was a change from the Slovakia game, because obviously we just about scraped through that one. So then obviously when we played Switzerland, it was a bit of a different approach, which worked, but also because of, I feel like England probably could have won that game in regulation time if Switzerland hadn't defended as good. And that was half it, is that they were defending really well. And hence the reason why it got to the point that we were a goal behind and then we actually somehow came back, which, to be fair, I'd love to see the XG stat on Saka's shot, because I'm pretty sure it would be somewhere between 0 and 0.2. Or
I can tell you
0.20.
it's 0.02.
There you go. So that exactly says like the quality of the chance to finish that makes it just seem even more unbelievable. So yeah, it was a very close game. England finally broke the penalty curse, and to be fair, that's testament to Southgate. And there's a few bits on Twitter around how they have like penalty buddies, which I think we can kind of cover in a different podcast around some of like the psychology of it and how we actually as coaches we can help.
100%.
But yeah, I'll commend Southgate on that. And you know what? We won a penalty shootout through to the semi-finals, isn't it? Semi-finals?
No, yeah. And I think you're right. There's penalties, very interesting topic. England got it 100% right on the day, and that is something we will discuss in a future podcast. Lovely shameless plug there. We'll move on to the semi-finals. Spain 2, France 1. Keane, lead us off.
This is a game that I think we all expected France to maybe come alive. It was the build up to that game. Spain were performing very well, like we've already touched on. France, were very hit and miss, and we were sort of half expecting France to come out and really show their quality, but unfortunately, they couldn't get themselves going. They couldn't get themselves going, and like I said earlier, I think they just lacked sharpness in the final third of the pitch at the end of the day, and I think that's really, really what cost them against a very good, almost faultless Spanish team.
With your mouse wonder strike as well in that exact game. So
yeah. Netherlands 1, England 2. Luke, can you give us a verdict?
Difficult.
Didn't expect that.
I think, it was quite an even game, I would say. Two teams that maybe aren't the greatest in terms of their performances over the few games. In Netherlands finishing third, England maybe not being as direct and attacking as people want. I think England controlled it quite well at times, as they had been doing throughout the whole tournament. I think once again, a bit like Switzerland, they did have quite a few chances, but it seemed they had to defend a bit more than what they had in previous games. And I think it was more I think the referee maybe a few decisions went one way or the other. Definitely that penalty, I think we all agreed we don't think it was. But as English fans, I'll be honest with you, I didn't care at the time.
We were so many times it was about time it goes in our way.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think we as an England team got quite lucky in the sense of that penalty. And then obviously, as England had been throughout the tournament, relying on a fantastic moment by Ollie Watkins, which how on earth he got that in the net from that angle, I don't think I will understand. But once again, I don't care how it went in the net. I was very, very happy that it did. But yeah, no, definitely not the most intense game, but
he's gone.
Well, that's interesting. Thanks for your thoughts, Luke. I echo what Luke said. We kept control of the game. We had 60% possession, which I think is a show of how we were trying to play that game. And I think, yeah, you mentioned the subs. You know, it was an Ollie Watkins goal and a Cole Palmer assist, 2 subs, which is showing that in the latter stages of a tournament, these subs are so crucial because you play so many games in quick succession. Well, one game left to talk about. Spain versus England. Now, it's not a game we want to discuss, but it's a game we shall. Matt, would you start us off, please?
I think you should start us off, James, because there's a stat you found, and I will not take credit. I'll let you say that one.
The statistic that I found that was very interesting was the 3 tournament games under Gareth Southgate in which England have held the least possession have been 3 games we've lost. We've lost all 3 of them. It was Croatia, Italy, and Spain. So all 3 very big games for us. You know, the 2 finals and a semi-final. Yeah, 3 huge games for us. And when we didn't control and dictate possession, we seemed to pay the price, and we did lose. So I think that was testament to the philosophy of keeping the ball, is because when we didn't keep the ball, as we didn't in this Spain game, we lost the game. And I think that is a huge credit to Spain themselves. I think no one can deny that they were the better side in the final. I think in the first half it was very, very, very even. I think England did a good job of nullifying the Spanish threat. I think Luke Shaw, absolute hats off to him. He kept Yamal under control, and especially when they doubled up on that side against him at times. But Luke Shaw won every single battle, and I think that was key to England's success in the first half. You know, he was brought into that side. He was the only change into the side. And I think Gareth got it absolutely spot on because he won every single battle in that first half. Now, in the second half, I think Yamal won a few more of those battles. And I think one of the reasons why England conceded the goals was a lot to do with our right-hand side. I think Kyle Walker maybe drifted in just slightly too much. I think maybe he lost focus on the wide outside because they were there. And I think that's one of the reasons why we lost the game. I think Williams was out there quite a lot, unmarked, and I think that was
he was very good as well.
We also changed from a back 5 to a back 4. So you're asking Walker to do a position that he's played for, give or take, the last 2-3 games, and then you then switch it for the final. You know, there can be a bit of a lost in translation going off what's been done before.
I think it needs it though, because I think having a back 5 against wide, like really wide wingers that's such a move to basically, you may as well go, here's your space, go and attack
it. Pings
it,
back your wing backs, don't it? That's the issue.
100%. 100%. And I think it's a very interesting point. When we looked at the lineup, I think a lot of people thought it was the back 3 again, and then the 2 wing backs. But yeah, we went out and we set up, and it looked like it was a back 4 for England, which it absolutely was. And you're right to say that Kyle Walker would have been inside where we found him for both goals when he was playing as one of those 3 centre halves. But in that game when he was designed to be a little bit further out right, I don't think we found him there enough times, and I think those are the individual mistakes that maybe cost us the game. But I don't think we can take away from the fact Spain were by far the best team in the competition. You know, they won every single game. They played some really bold and brave football, and they had the players to do so. They were very creative. Their young players were superb. They overperformed compared to what anybody could have imagined. And I think, yeah, huge credit to Spain. The final obviously didn't go the way we would have wanted. I think England put up a great fight in the first half. In the second, I think it was the loss of concentration maybe that cost England. But overall, I think Spain were the best team in the competition. I'm sure you'll all agree. And I think they were deserved winners.
Absolutely.
We'll move on now to a very short question, which is a 1-word answer on each side. I'll go around each of you. I just want to know a team that overperformed and a team that underperformed. So, Keane, we'll start with you.
Overperformed, I'm gonna have to say Georgia. I did not expect them to finish above 4th really in their group. So, absolutely fair play to them. And underperformed for me, definitely 100 million% Portugal.
Perfect. Carl, go for it.
I'm going to say underperformed France. Had high expectations they were going to go on and do a lot more, cause a lot more damage, did pretty much naffle during the tournament. And I'm actually going to go ahead and say Slovakia. They didn't go far into the tournament, but one thing I did see is they did put up a good fight, and they were defensively quite good, even alluding to the England game. Like, you concede one right in the dying seconds of a bicycle kick, which is a moment, and then in the first half of extra time. So I was really impressed with Slovakia and the defensive attributes.
Perfect. Luke, can you give us a verdict?
Overperformed, I'm going to say Switzerland. I think for them to get out of the group they were in and then to take on an Italy team who were the previous champions was really impressive. Underperformed, I think I'm going to say France as well. I think I expected a lot more from them and they just weren't providing. And like we said, to score just only one goal from open play just seems mad in my eyes.
Matthew, go for it.
I think overperformed, I'm going to go Austria. Topping a group where you have France and Netherlands, you never thought that, and they just play brilliant football. I'll keep it brief, and I'll go with Keane. I've done it the wrong way around. Hang about. Austria for overperformed, underperformed. Even though it was their first, I think Serbia, with Mitrovic banging it in the Saudi and obviously doing what he did in the Prem, I thought maybe third or maybe be a bit of an underdog in second, but I'll go with them.
Superb. I think for me, like a lot of people, France are my underperformers because you have such high expectations, such high quality, and they weren't good enough with their one goal from open play. And for me, actually, the overperformers were Turkey because I thought they got a long way. And this time, I don't think many people expected that. Like I've mentioned before, I think before people have expected a lot more from them. This time, I think they were underdogs, and I think they did the business to get as far as they did. I think they were a little bit unfortunate to go out in the quarterfinals, but yeah, that's my underperformer and overperformer. Thank you very much for listening today. I think it was really important that we have a look and we break down all these things. And I'm sure that every single nation now is going to break down their own tournament, successful or unsuccessful. I'm going to leave us with a quote from an American philosopher and psychologist. His name was John Dewey. And he said, "We do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience." And that's the thought I will leave you with today. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.